Power isn't loud, it's rooted, disciplined, and unshakably calm. If you've ever felt underestimated, if you've ever been told to shrink, to wait, to soften your ambition, this moment is for you, because becoming an alpha woman isn't about dominance. It's about direction. It's not about proving anything to the world. It's about knowing who you are when the world goes quiet. I didn't wake up powerful one day. I became powerful by choosing myself again and again on days when it would have been easier not to. Let me walk you through the habits that changed everything, not overnight, but forever. It begins with a quiet but radical decision to respect yourself even when it costs you comfort, applause, or belonging. Most people don't realize how early we're trained to trade our self-respect for approval. It starts innocently. You're praised for being agreeable. You're loved for being easy. You're rewarded for not making anyone uncomfortable. And slowly, without noticing, you learn that being chosen feels safer than choosing yourself. I learned this lesson when I realized how exhausted I was from performing versions of myself that felt acceptable to everyone else. I was smiling when I wanted to speak. I was nodding when something inside me was screaming no. And every time I abandoned my truth to keep the peace, I lost a little trust in myself. That loss is subtle, but it's dangerous, because once you stop trusting yourself, you start outsourcing your worth to the opinions of others. Approval feels good in the moment. It's warm, it's validating, but it's also unstable. Because the same people who applaud you today can turn silent tomorrow. And if your confidence depends on their claps, it will collapse the moment the room changes. Self-respect, on the other hand, is quiet. No one may notice it at first, but it builds something unshakable inside you. It's the voice that says, I may disappoint you, but I will not betray myself. Choosing self-respect means you stop explaining your boundaries. You stop apologizing for standards you worked hard to develop. You stop shrinking your dreams to make other people comfortable with their own limitations. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. And clarity is power. There were moments in my life when choosing myself meant walking away from opportunities that looked perfect on paper but felt wrong in my spirit. Moments when I was told I was being difficult, too firm, too much. And for a second, doubt crept in. But here's the truth. Every time I honored my self-respect, life met me with alignment later. Not instantly, not easily, but always honestly. An alpha woman understands this deeply. Respect is not demanded, it is demonstrated. The way you speak to yourself sets the standard for how the world speaks to you. If you tolerate disrespect internally, you will attract it externally. But when you decide that your time, energy, and values are sacred, something shifts. The wrong people fall away. The right ones rise to meet you. Self-respect also means being willing to be misunderstood. Growth will confuse people who benefited from your silence. Boundaries will offend those who had unlimited access to you. And that's okay. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be honest. This habit doesn't make life easier. It makes life truer. You stop chasing rooms that don't want you. You stop forcing connections that drain you. You stop negotiating your worth. And in that stillness, you discover something extraordinary. You don't need external permission to feel whole. When you respect yourself, your posture changes. Your voice steadies. Your decisions become cleaner. You don't rush. You don't beg. You don't settle. Not because you think you're better than others, but because you finally understand your value. And here's the quiet miracle of self-respect. The moment you stop seeking approval, you start attracting respect. Not from everyone, but from the ones who matter. From those who recognize strength, integrity, and grounded confidence. Choosing self-respect is the foundation of becoming an alpha woman. Because before the world ever believes in you, you must believe that you are worthy of standing firmly in who you are, without shrinking, without apology, without fear. Discipline is the habit that quietly builds everything you admire in strong women, yet it's the one most people misunderstand. They think discipline is harsh, rigid, punishing. But real discipline is devotion. It's the decision to honor your future self even when your present self feels tired, distracted, or unsure. No one sees the private moments. The early mornings when your alarm rings and your body begs you to stay in bed. The nights when no one is calling, applauding, or checking in. And it would be easy to tell yourself that skipping today won't matter. But it does. Because discipline isn't about today. It's about who you're becoming. I learned very early that talent can open a door, but discipline is what keeps it open. There were rooms I walked into where I was the least experienced person there. Sometimes the only woman. Sometimes the only one who didn't quite fit the mold. And in those moments, confidence wasn't something I could borrow from applause. It had to come from preparation, from knowing I had shown up for myself long before anyone else did. Discipline is doing the work without the guarantee of success. It's committing to excellence without knowing who will notice. It's practicing when the room is empty, trusting that one day it won't be. That trust, that quiet faith, is what separates women who wish from women who become. There were seasons in my life where discipline looked very unglamorous, repeating lines until my voice cracked. Earning new skills while others rested, saying no to distractions that everyone else said yes to. Not because I was stronger than them, but because I was clearer about what I wanted. Discipline begins with clarity. When your vision is sharp, your excuses soften. An alpha woman doesn't wait to feel motivated. She understands that motivation is emotional and emotions change. Discipline is spiritual. It's rooted. It doesn't ask how you feel today. It asks who you promised yourself you would be. And here's the part no one tells you. Discipline builds self-trust. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, something powerful happens inside you. Your confidence deepens, your voice steadies. You stop second-guessing your decisions. Because you've proven to yourself that you show up, even when it's inconvenient. This is why disciplined women move differently. They don't rush, they don't panic, they don't crumble under pressure. Because they've already done the work in silence. Pressure doesn't create them, it reveals them. Discipline is also an act of self-respect. When you commit to growth, to learning, to consistency, you're telling yourself that your dreams deserve effort, that your goals are not fantasies, but responsibilities. And when you treat your dreams with responsibility, the world begins to take you seriously too. There were moments I wanted to quit, moments when the distance between effort and reward felt endless. But discipline taught me patience. It taught me that progress is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. That the strongest roots grow underground where no one is watching. Faith plays a quiet role here. Discipline without faith becomes obsession. But discipline anchored in faith becomes peace. You do your part fully and honestly, and then you release the outcome. You trust that what is meant for you will meet you at the intersection of preparation, and timing. An alpha woman doesn't compare her pace to anyone else's. She understands that everyone's journey has a different rhythm. Discipline allows her to stay in her lane without feeling behind, because she knows she's building something sustainable, not something flashy. And over time, discipline changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes, someone who follows through, someone who can be counted on by others, but more importantly by herself. That's real power. Not the kind that announces itself loudly, but the kind that stands steady when everything else shakes. Because when discipline becomes your habit, confidence becomes your nature. And when no one is watching, you are still becoming extraordinary. Pain has a way of introducing itself without permission. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't check if the timing is fair. It simply arrives. And suddenly, everything you thought you understood about strength is tested. Most people spend their lives running from pain, numbing it, or allowing it to define them. But an alpha woman learns something different. She learns to listen to it. I didn't always understand this. There were moments when pain felt like punishment, rejection that came without explanation, loneliness that settled in even when I was surrounded by people, moments when I questioned my worth, my direction, my faith, and in those moments it would have been easy to become bitter, to build walls, to let the hurt harden me. But pain isn't here to destroy you, it's here to shape you. Every setback carries information, every heartbreak carries instruction. Pain shows you where you cared deeply, where you trusted bravely, where you dared to hope. That's not weakness, that's courage. And when you learn to see pain as a teacher instead of a life sentence, it stops owning you. There was a time when starting over felt humiliating, when walking away from things I had invested so much of myself in felt like failure. But what I learned is this: sometimes pain is life redirecting you. Sometimes the door closes, not because you're unworthy, but because you've outgrown the room. An alpha woman doesn't romanticize suffering, but she doesn't fear it either. She sits with it, she asks it questions, she allows it to soften her ego and sharpen her wisdom. Pain humbles you, and humility creates space for growth. The danger isn't pain itself. The danger is staying stuck in it, replaying the story, rehearsing the wound, allowing yesterday's hurt to make today's decisions. That's how pain becomes a prison. But when you decide to extract the lesson instead of reliving the trauma, pain becomes fuel. Fuel for boundaries, fuel for discernment, fuel for strength that doesn't need to prove itself. There were experiences that taught me who to trust and who not to. Experiences that taught me the difference between attention and love, between ambition and alignment. Those lessons were expensive, but they were worth every tear because they saved me years of confusion. Pain also deepens compassion. When you've been broken open, you see people differently. You become gentler. You listen more. You judge less. An alpha woman doesn't lead with superiority. She leads with understanding because she knows what it feels like to be on the floor, asking God for strength you didn't know you'd need. Faith plays a powerful role here. Pain will either pull you away from faith or push you deeper into it. In my hardest moments, faith wasn't loud. It was a whisper, a quiet reminder that even this season had purpose, that even this hurt was not wasted. When you believe that nothing is random, pain stops feeling pointless. You may not understand it immediately. You may not even appreciate it for a long time. But one day, you look back and realize the thing that almost broke you is the reason you're unbreakable now. An alpha woman doesn't rush healing. She respects the process. She doesn't pretend she's okay when she's not. She does the work, the honest work. Therapy, prayer, reflection, letting go. Healing isn't glamorous, but it's powerful. And here's the quiet truth. Once you've survived deep pain, fear loses its grip. You stop being afraid of failure because you've already lived through worse. You stop shrinking because you know you can rebuild. Again and again. Pain introduces you to your own resilience. It shows you how much you can carry and still stand. And when you stop running from it, you discover that pain didn't come to end you. It came to elevate you. There is a quiet authority that comes from knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. In a world that rewards volume, reaction, and constant expression, restraint has become rare. And because it is rare, it is powerful. An alpha woman understands this instinctively. She does not rush to fill the silence. She does not argue to prove her worth. She speaks when her words will carry weight, and she stays silent when they won't. Early on, I thought being heard meant speaking more, explaining myself, defending my choices, clarifying my intentions. But the more I spoke, the more I realized something unsettling. Not everyone listening was interested in understanding. Some were only waiting to respond. Some were waiting to judge. And some were simply waiting to use your words against you. That's when I learned that discernment matters as much as courage. Speaking with purpose means you know why you're opening your mouth. It means your words are aligned with your values, not your emotions of the moment. Anger speaks fast. Ego speaks loud. Wisdom speaks slowly. And silence, when chosen intentionally, speaks louder than all of them. There were moments in my life when I was misunderstood, when narratives were written about me that weren't true. And every instinct told me to correct the record immediately, to explain, to defend, to fight back. But clarity doesn't always come from reaction, it comes from consistency. I learned that if you live your truth long enough, your life will answer questions your mouth never needs to. An alpha woman does not waste energy on conversations that don't lead to growth. She doesn't engage in gossip disguised as concern. She doesn't argue with people committed to misunderstanding her. That restraint isn't weakness. It's strategy. Your energy is finite. Spend it where it multiplies, not where it drains. Purposeful speech also requires listening, deep listening, the kind where you're not preparing your reply, but actually receiving what's being said. When you listen well, you learn more than words. You learn patterns, intentions, and truth. This is how alpha women read rooms without dominating them. There is also integrity in silence. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is not expose someone, not escalate a situation, not make everything public. Not every truth needs an audience. Not every lesson needs a microphone. Silence can be grace. Faith teaches this beautifully. Stillness is where clarity lives. In prayer, in reflection, in pauses. When you slow down your speech, you make space for wisdom greater than your own. And often the answer you're looking for doesn't come through talking. It comes through listening. An alpha woman's words are intentional because she understands their power. Words can build futures or burn bridges. They can heal or humiliate. She chooses them carefully, not out of fear, but out of respect for impact. She knows that once words leave your mouth, you can't call them back. And here's something important. Art on speaking less doesn't mean thinking less. Often it means thinking more. It means you're no longer impulsive. You're no longer reactive, you're responsive. And that shift alone changes how people perceive you. Calm becomes your signature. Groundedness becomes your presence. There is also confidence in not oversharing. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Privacy is not secrecy, it's protection. An alpha woman shares her story selectively, understanding that chapters are sacred. She doesn't need constant validation. She is rooted. Silence also reveals truth. When you stop over-explaining, people show you who they really are. When you stop chasing understanding, alignment becomes obvious. The right people lean in, the wrong ones fall away. This habit refines your voice. When you finally speak, people listen. Not because you're louder, but because you're rare. Because your words are not wasted. They are weighted. And over time, this way of moving through the world teaches you something profound. You don't need to control the narrative when your life is aligned. You don't need to announce your strength when it's evident. You don't need to defend your worth when it's already grounded. That is the power of speaking with purpose instead of noise. It's the strength of knowing that your presence is enough, your silence is intentional, and your voice, when you choose to use it, can change rooms. Gratitude and faith are not soft qualities, they are stabilizers. They are what keep an alpha woman grounded when life starts moving fast, when applause grows louder, and when success begins to test her character more than failure ever did. Anyone can be humble when they have nothing. It takes real strength to stay humble when you have options. I learned early that achievement without gratitude creates emptiness. You can reach milestones, collect titles, and still feel restless if you forget why you started and who helped you get there. Gratitude slows you down just enough to remember. Faith lifts your eyes just high enough to trust. There were seasons when everything I worked for finally started to happen. Doors opened, opportunities multiplied, and the temptation in those moments is subtle. You start believing it was all you, your effort, your talent, your resilience. But that belief is fragile, because the moment life shifts, and it always does, ego has nothing to hold on to. Faith reminds you that you are part of something larger than your plans. It reminds you that timing matters as much as effort, that rejection can be protection, that delays can be divine. When you hold faith close, you stop forcing outcomes. You still work hard, but you release control. And that release brings peace. Gratitude changes how you experience life. It turns waiting into preparation. It turns obstacles into lessons. It turns success into responsibility. An alpha woman doesn't ask, "What else can I get?" She asks, "How can I honor what I've been given?" There were moments when gratitude saved me from arrogance and from despair. On days when things weren't working, gratitude reminded me of how far I'd already come. On days when everything was working, gratitude reminded me to stay kind, present, and human. Faith doesn't mean certainty. It means trust in uncertainty. It means showing up even when the map is incomplete. It means believing that the work you're doing matters, even if results aren't immediate. Faith steadies your steps when logic runs out. An alpha woman understands that success is not just about climbing, it's about staying balanced at the top. Gratitude keeps you balanced. Faith keeps you rooted. Without them, success becomes noisy, anxious, and unsustainable. There is also strength in surrender, not giving up, but giving over, letting go of the need to control every outcome, every perception, every detail. Faith teaches you that some things unfold only when you stop gripping them tightly. Gratitude also expands generosity. When you recognize that your blessings are not accidental, you naturally want to give back. You mentor, you uplift, you open doors for others, not out of obligation but out of overflow. Service becomes instinct, not strategy. And here's something deeply grounding. Gratitude keeps you present. It stops you from constantly chasing the next milestone and missing the life happening right now. It teaches you to celebrate progress without pressure, to honor effort without attachment. An alpha woman prays, reflects, and realigns. She checks in with her spirit, not just her schedule. She knows that ambition without alignment leads to burnout. Faith keeps her centered when ambition pulls hard. When things fall apart, gratitude and faith don't disappear, they deepen. You learn to say thank you even for lessons you didn't ask for. You learn to trust even when outcomes disappoint you. That kind of faith is unshakable because it isn't conditional. Over time, this habit shapes your presence. You become calmer, kinder, more intentional. People feel safe around you, not because you're perfect, but because you're grounded. And grounded women lead differently. Gratitude and faith are not pauses in your progress. They are the foundation of it. They keep your heart soft while your standards stay high. They keep your ambition fierce while your spirit stays gentle. And that balance, that rare combination, is what allows an alpha woman to rise without losing herself. True power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to dominate a room or remind others who's in charge. Real power is calm, assured, and generous. An alpha woman understands this deeply. She doesn't lead by controlling people. She leads by serving a purpose greater than herself. And that distinction changes everything. For a long time, the world taught us that leadership meant authority, that being in charge meant being obeyed, that strength meant having the final word. But control is fragile. It depends on fear, pressure, and constant maintenance. Service, on the other hand, is enduring. It earns loyalty, it builds trust, and it creates impact that outlives titles. I learned this by watching the most influential people in my life. The ones who changed rooms didn't do it by intimidating others. They did it by listening, by noticing, by making people feel seen. Their leadership didn't shrink others, it expanded them. An alpha woman doesn't compete for attention. She creates environments where others can thrive. She understands that leadership is not about being above, it's about being responsible. Responsible for energy, for tone, for direction, for how people feel when they leave the room. Service requires humility. It requires you to let go of ego and ask, how can I add value here? Not how can I stand out? And ironically, that mindset is what makes you unforgettable. People may forget your words, but they never forget how you made them feel. There were moments in my journey when I had influence without authority. I wasn't the loudest voice or the most powerful position in the room, but I showed up prepared. I showed up kind. I showed up consistently. And slowly, trust formed. That trust opened doors no force ever could. An alpha woman leads by example. She works hard, not to be praised, but to set a standard. She is punctual, prepared, respectful. She understands that leadership is visible long before it is official. Service also means lifting as you climb. You don't close doors behind you, you hold them open. You mentor, you recommend it. You share knowledge without fear of being replaced. Because when you are secure in your value, you don't see others' success as competition. This kind of leadership requires emotional intelligence. It requires self-awareness. You must know your strengths, your triggers, your blind spots. You must be willing to apologize when you're wrong and learn when you don't know. Control resists accountability. Service embraces it. Faith strengthens this habit. When you believe your role is stewardship, not ownership, you lead differently. You stop clinging to power. You stop micromanaging outcomes. You trust that what's meant to stay will stay, and what's meant to grow will grow beyond you. An alpha woman also knows when to step back. Service isn't self-sacrifice to the point of depletion. It's an intentional contribution. She protects her energy so she can lead sustainably. Boundaries make service effective, not selfish. There is also courage in service. It takes bravery to choose integrity over shortcuts, to advocate for fairness, to stand up for someone who has no voice, to make decisions that are right, not just popular. That courage creates respect, the kind that doesn't fade when circumstances change. Over time, this approach to leadership transforms your relationships. People don't feel managed, they feel supported. They don't feel used, they feel valued. And when challenges arise, they stand with you, not because they have to, but because they want to. Service builds legacy. Control builds compliance. One fades quickly, the other multiplies. An alpha woman understands that her influence is not measured by how many people work for her, but by how many people grow because of her. That is real authority, quiet, steady, unshakable. And when you lead through service, you don't just create success, you create meaning. You leave rooms better than you found them. You turn ambition into impact. And you discover that the strongest leaders are not those who hold the tightest grip, but those who lift the highest. When you're ready, I'll share the final lesson, the courage to evolve relentlessly, and why growth is the most dangerous habit of all. Growth is not comfortable, and that's exactly why it's powerful. An alpha woman understands that the most dangerous thing she can do in the best possible way is refuse to stay the same. She doesn't cling to old identities just because they're familiar. She doesn't protect versions of herself that no longer fit. She evolves relentlessly, honestly, fearlessly. There is a quiet bravery required to outgrow who you once were, because growth often means disappointing people who were comfortable with you. It means letting go of labels that once kept you safe. It means admitting, I know more now. I am different now. I want more now. And not everyone will celebrate that. I've had to shed skins that once felt like home, dreams that no longer aligned, beliefs that limited me. And each time, there was fear. Fear of starting over, fear of being judged, fear of losing momentum. But staying the same would have cost me more than change ever did. An alpha woman does not romanticize her past. She honors it, but she doesn't live there. She understands that growth is not betrayal. It's obedience to who you're becoming. And becoming requires movement. Evolution begins with awareness. You start noticing what drains you, what excites you, what no longer feels true. You stop numbing that inner voice with distractions. You listen. And listening changes everything. Growth also requires humility. You must be willing to say, I don't know, to ask questions, to be a beginner again. Pride wants to protect your image. Growth asks you to protect your potential, and potential always demands courage. There were times when evolving meant walking into rooms where I was no longer the expert, where I had to learn aga. Train again, prove myself again, not to others but to myself. And that can bruise the ego. But ego is heavy. Growth requires you to travel light. An alpha woman doesn't wait for permission to evolve. She doesn't wait for validation. She doesn't wait until change feels safe. She moves when alignment calls, because she understands that comfort is not the same as peace. Faith plays a powerful role here. Growth is uncertain. You don't always know how the next chapter will turn out, but faith reminds you that clarity often follows courage, not the other way around. You step first, the ground meets you after. Relentless evolution also means releasing perfection. You will make mistakes, you will pivot, you will change your mind. That's not instability, that's intelligence. Stagnation is far more dangerous than change. An alpha woman measures progress internally, not just externally. She pays attention to her peace, her integrity, her alignment. Success without inner growth feels hollow. But growth, even without applause, feels powerful. There is also discipline in evolution. You don't grow once, you grow continuously. You read, you reflect, you seek feedback, you refine. Growth is not a moment, it's a habit. And the more you evolve, the less you fear loss. Because you realize you can rebuild, you can adapt, you can begin again. That realization makes you unstoppable. Fear loses leverage when you trust your ability to rise. The most evolved women are not the loudest, they are the calmest. They don't chase relevance, they create depth. They don't prove, they embody. And their presence carries weight because it's rooted in truth. Evolution sharpens discernment. You stop forcing what doesn't fit. You stop chasing what doesn't align. You choose depth over drama, purpose over pressure, meaning over momentum. An alpha woman is dangerous not because she dominates, but because she grows. And growth cannot be controlled. It cannot be boxed. It cannot be predicted. A woman who evolves will outgrow every limitation placed on her. And here is the final truth that ties it all together. You were never meant to remain who you were yesterday. You were meant to become, to rise, to refine, to serve, to believe, to discipline yourself, to respect yourself, to transform pain into power, to speak with purpose, to stay grounded in faith, to lead with heart, and to evolve without apology. Don't just survive this life, grow through it. Don't just adapt to the world. Become someone the world must rise to meet. Your evolution is not optional. It is your responsibility, and it is your legacy. You don't become powerful by shouting louder. You become powerful by standing firmer, by respecting yourself when it's uncomfortable, by staying disciplined when no one is watching, by letting pain shape you, not shrink you, by choosing silence over noise, by grounding your ambition in gratitude and faith, by leading through service, not control, and by evolving again and again without apology. The world will try to label you, box you, slow you down, let it try. You were not created to fit neatly into anyone's expectations. You are created to grow into your own calling. Walk with faith when clarity is missing. Work with discipline when motivation fades. Lead with heart when power is offered. And remember this, you don't need permission to rise. You don't need validation to be worthy. You don't need approval to own your strength. Don't just dream. Wake up and do the work. Don't wait to be chosen. Choose yourself. And don't dim your light to make the world comfortable. Stand tall, stay rooted, and become the woman your future is waiting for. Here is the truth you can carry with you into every season of your life. You are not behind, you are not late. You are being prepared. Every delay has shaped you. Every challenge has strengthened you. Every moment of doubt has taught you where your faith must live. Do the work with discipline. Walk with humility. Trust what you cannot yet see. When doors close, don't panic. When paths change, don't lose heart. What is meant for you will never require you to abandon who you are. Stand in your worth, serve with love, grow without fear, and remember, when your steps are guided by faith and your effort is honest, nothing meant for you will miss you. Go forward now, not rushed, not afraid, grounded in faith, committed to the work, ready to rise.